Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in my kitchen. We are live. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news here in pretty sunny but cold Salford. Sorry, we're a little bit late there. A few people have pointed that out. Not says happy Sunday hangover. Yes, happy Sunday hangover to all you who celebrate it. Look, we have a chat on a Sunday. Most Sundays, don't we? And we talk about the latest Manchester United news and we go through the papers. But a lot of it is, I almost feel like Sundays are like slow news day. Might start calling this show Slow News Sunday because I feel like the papers and the stories, a lot of centering around things we already know, trying to sort of escalate rumors into reports and stories and just regurgitating a lot of what we've already discussed. And I do like doing these shows and I do like chatting to you guys. And I think it becomes more of a discussion, doesn't it? Rather than me just sort of speaking at you and telling you what's being said. And we go back and forth over certain stories, certain news items, certain sort of traits that Manchester United have at the minute. So I thought we could do that this morning, have a little look at the stories that are doing rounds are pretty similar to what I've been talking about for almost the last year, or certainly the last few months in terms of the players that we're being linked with. So I don't want to keep repeating the same old stories in and out, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to have a chat, have a discussion about them, and just see where Manchester United are going in terms of our transfer policies. Because I think at the minute, Manchester United are in a bit of a weird place. Now, we've had a very, very successful summer in terms of the players we've brought in. I think they've been great. I do. Now, you might go, Jay, what are you on about? We're 7th. We've lost a few games. We're out of the Carabao. How can you say it's been very, very successful? Well, just looking at the players that we've brought in, the performances of those players, what I hope to see from those players and what we've seen, I think it's been a good move. I really do. I think Matheus Cunha is getting better. I think there's still flaws into his game. Look, there was flaws to his game at Wolves, but I think he's a very entertaining player, wants the ball. Maybe you could argue he should have more goals or assists, but we're certainly moving in the right direction, and you can understand why Manchester United got him, and I think he gives us another little bit of an added dimension to that attack. Benjamin Sesko's had his detractors, but on the whole, I've been impressed. I think he's a very good player. And I think he'll come good at Manchester United. And even though he's not set the world alight in terms of goals, he has got off the mark. He has got a couple of Premier League goals. And let's not say that for granted, because there's some players out there, Florian Wirtz, who was struggling to get off the mark at all. And they cost a lot more than Benjamin Sesko. Then you look at Brian Mbeumo, who's been phenomenal. Player of the month for October, scores goals, create goals, become a bit of a talisman. And I say that as a big Bruno Fernandes fan. But I think Brian Mbeumo is becoming that player that everyone's looking at going, if anyone's going to get us out of jail here, it's going to be the Cameroonian. And you've got Diego Leon, who's obviously one for the future, and we don't need to go too much into that, but there's been some positive signs from his performances for the academy. So I think it's been a very, very good window. I don't often say that about Manchester United. Now, the question here with what Manchester United are doing and what's carrying on with the transfer policy is, are we going to see more big signings in the summer, more big money signings, or are we still on this sort of the next Kylian Mbappe idea that Sir Jim Ratcliffe promised? Or is it going to be both? So this is what I want to get into a little bit. Colin Couple-Ditch says, have we all got new member badges, by the way? Now, producer Ben was very proud of himself for the member badges that he's created. I'll be honest with you. It's a great question, Colin, and thanks for your unwavering support of the channel. I don't know is the honest answer where we're up to then. I will let you know on the Paddock podcast tomorrow afternoon at 4. We'll get into that. We'll find out what's going on. I'll speak to Ben tomorrow. We're doing the news at Old Trafford, but I'll speak to him about the badges and let you guys all know. I might even know tomorrow morning, but we'll definitely have that update for you on the Paddock podcast. K. Daniels says it wasn't slow back in the day with News of the World and the People papers. They used to come out of all sorts. I even wrote for the Sunday People a couple of times, but the News of the World, I won't wipe my bum with that, to be honest with you. Barvish Gorbin says, watching from Mauritius, Indian Ocean, sounds lovely. Cameron West Samuel says, morning shagger. Wasn't me. I want to say one thing quickly as well. Big thanks to everyone who donated to my sleepout. It wasn't just my sleepout, it was a sleepout that took part in on Friday evening. We raised 1,600 quid. We smashed it. I smashed it. You guys were the ones that donated. 1,600 quid. Massively more than I thought we would get. Helps a great charity in the Booth Centre who support and help the homeless across Greater Manchester. So big thank you to everyone. I was really, really chuffed with that. And I appreciate times are hard. Christmas isn't that far away. And people dug deep and we smashed our target. And that will make, I know people say, it's going to make it will. It's a smaller charity. And I always think with smaller charities, amounts like that make a difference. And you can see it tangibly what they do with that money. So I don't want to preach to anyone. I just want to say a big thank you. I appreciate it. The Booth Centre appreciate it. And I've seen firsthand. I'm not going to say, I slept out on the street for a night, so I know what it's like. I don't. I slept one night, but it is grim. That night was tough. I can't imagine what it's like for 365 days a year. And hopefully with some of the money we've raised, we'll be able to support people that need a bit of help, especially with the winter months and Christmas coming up. It's always a tough time. So thank you to you wonderful people. Now, in terms of transfers and what the policy is and what's going on. Now, we know that Manchester United are being heavily linked with Carlos Baleba and Elliot Anderson. I think there was a story from, I've got it here. I think it was John Cross who might have had this one. He was talking about it. According to John Cross. So this is in the Evening News, and they sort of quoted John Cross. John Cross seems to do the rounds on a Sunday, and it says that we've already mentioned Adam Wharton, while Carlos Baleba also remains a topic of discussion, but Nottingham Forest Anderson has been something of a revelation since he's moved to the City Ground from Newcastle in 2024. It also says Manchester United eyeing up 2 significant midfield additions next summer, with Elliot Anderson topping that list. So Baleba and Anderson could both come in theory. Now, will that happen in the summer? We'll have to wait and see. It does seem a little bit unlikely, but the counter argument is, you know what? We could probably do with both of them. And if Casemiro goes, we don't know what's going to happen with Bruno. Chances are he'll stay. But if there is any sort of more interest from Saudi or anything like that, his view's going to change, or the club's view's going to change. I hope not. I love Bruno Fernandes. But there's going to be a little bit of upheaval in there over the summer with Manchester United midfield. Could we go out and spend a chunk of money on the likes of Elliot Anderson and Carlos Baleba? I'll get into some of the comments before I go back to this conversation, because I'm going to carry on with it in a minute, but I do want to get into some comments because I realise I haven't read hardly any. Kay Daniels, Bob Ralph, Rob Clark Rob Clark says, does anyone know if Alive has ever been on time? Imagine what Keno would say. There was a time, I think, February 2022, where I did one that was on time. It might be March 2022. I'll double check. G'day from Perth, Australia, says JDK. Had a wonderful time in Perth. Cameron West Samuel says, how do I become a member? There, just go into the members section. I think it's pretty easy to find on YouTube. There's also a link in the description. All our videos should have a link to our members section, and also a link to our merchandise section. Go and check out merch. Christmas is coming up. Good chance to get a bit of merchandise. Christodolu says, hi, buddy. In light of Cannonar's recent comments and the lack of academy graduates in the first team squad, do you think we are losing a bit of our identity under INEOS? Yes, Eric Cannonar, who is on my screensaver, or is that your wallpaper or his screensaver? I always forget, but he's there when I met him. He says, you know, he's questioned what's going on in INEOS. He's done it a few times, hasn't he, Eric Cannona, and he's said that about, as Christos has mentioned there, about us losing our identity. It worries me a little bit about the lack of first team members who are academy graduates. I've spoken about this on the podcast and on the channel a lot. Me and Joe have spoken about it quite a lot over the last couple of months. And we're in a situation now, and it's a rare situation for Manchester United to be in, where none of our first team, and I mean our starting 11, are academy graduates. None of them. Kobe Mainoo doesn't start. He's got no Premier League starts. Now, I think he should. That's a different discussion, but he doesn't. Who else is there who you could say is a first team member or squad member even? A lot of the time, it's been Kobe on his own who's been the first team, in the squad from the academy. Just him. We've had a couple of squads, I think, where he's the only one. There's one where he went out, and was it Jack Fletcher came in? If it wasn't for Jack Fletcher, there wouldn't have been anyone. Now, you might go, we have to get Jack Fletcher in just to keep the record going. But I don't think we did. I think he would have been next in line anyway. You lose a midfielder, you bring in another midfielder. Jack Fletcher's done very well for the academy. So it kind of made sense. However, I get where Eric Cannona is coming from. The question is, what do you do about that? Do you ignore players that are good enough or that you want to sign because you just want to promote from the academy, because you want to keep this record going and you think that's our identity and that's what we should be doing? Or do you just go, what is the best player, or who is the best player for Manchester United, regardless? Now, United in the past have always had better players, or our best players. At least 2 or 3 of them have come through the academy. In my lifetime, we've had, when I was a kid, it was, I think you had Whiteside came through the academy. You also had Mark Hughes, who came from the academy. We sold him and he came back. Then you had players, obviously, when you got into the early 90s, Ryan Giggs was one that was there for 20 years. Then you had Scholes in the class of 92. Happy birthdays, by the way. Happy birthdays. Happy birthday to Paul Scholes, the greatest English midfielder of my generation. Arguably of all time, but there's a conversation to be had with Brian Robson. So you always had those players. Then once the class of 92 retired, you had players like Darren Fletcher, you had Scott McTominay, you had Marcus Rashford. There was always someone there. Wes Brown was there for a while. There's always been, then more recently, you had Garnacho, you had Kobbie Mainoo, who were first team players. We've always had that. Now, though, you look at it and you go, none of the first team, none of them are academy graduates. I mean, the starting 11. And even the squad is only just hanging on by its fingertips to having an academy player in it. So I get Eric's worry. The question is, do you force it? Do you go, well, we're not going to buy Elliot Anderson. We're going to try, I don't know, Kobbie Mainoo in that role because we want to keep the academy. I don't think you do that. I think you have to go with what is best for Manchester United. I will say, from my conversations that I have with Finn, Academy Scoop, on Academy Review, from what I've seen myself, there is a good swathe of youngsters coming through that could get into the first team squad. I think it might not be next season even, it might be the season after, but there's a lot of young players. And I think the one that's probably closest, or the one that I keep my eye on, is Shea Lacey. I think he's a Manchester United type of player, very exciting, good on the ball, wants to create things, scores goals, creates goals. Yes, I think he's 17, 18, very young, but he's someone that people are looking at going, he could be in this first team, not in the not too distant future. Finn says he could even see it happening when we lose a few players to AFCON. Carl Anker said it might be a bit further down the line than that, but they both agree that Shea Lacey is a fantastic talent. We've seen him training with the England under-21s. We've seen him training with the England first team. He's a player that has been lauded and sort of earmarked for greatness for a while now. Had a few injuries. However, it looks like, touch wood, he's getting through that. Jem says, well done, Jay. Thank you. That's in reference to the K. Daniel says it as well. Akash K says it. A few people saying about, well done for the sleep out, but I say right back at you. Well done for supporting it. Ahmed S says, Jay, Wout Weghorst is on the list for short-term replacement for Sesko. Injury. Are you making this up? Let me have a look. Because it sounds a little bit... yeah, I can't see that anywhere at the minute. If that pops up, then yeah, I think that's a bit of trolling. Unless it's some paper that has actually ran that. Rob Clark is a new member. Thank you for supporting our membership section. If you get join our membership, you get extra content, behind the scenes stuff. We're going to be adding more content to our members section, and you get some new badges as well, which I mentioned earlier. And we'll work out a few more perks we can do over the Christmas period. Blaz or Blazy Gaming says, flying from Brussels, love Brussels, went there once, I need to go back, it was a fantastic stay. To watch the game versus Everton, are you going to be there as well, Jay? Yes, I think it's at Old Trafford, so I will be there. My sort of MO in my middle-aged years has been mainly home games. I've got a season ticket still. I do the home games. I do the occasional away, but I more or less just do the home games. Right, let's talk about it. So Flyboys is saying, so what's the broken promise? I don't get it. It's a good question and a fair one, because I feel like now we're at this sort of strange situation at Manchester United where we were told, and I'll tell you what we were told by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I'll get into this. So this is what Sir Jim Ratcliffe says. Sir Jim Ratcliffe says he would rather unearth the next Kylian Mbappe for Manchester United than spend a fortune on the France forward, which you get. He says, I'd rather find the next Mbappe than spend a fortune trying to buy success. It's not that clever, is it? Buying Mbappe in a way. Anyone could figure that one out. Much more challenging is to find the next Mbappe or Jude Bellingham or the next Roy Keane. So the idea there is we ain't going to go out and spend big money on these superstar signings, we're going to go out and buy the next superstar signing. So a good example of that would have been, it didn't happen, but would have been if under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, according to many reports and according to the man himself, he did want someone like Moises Caicedo before he went to Brighton. He wanted Jude Bellingham when he was still at Birmingham. He wanted Erling Haaland when he was managing him at Mold to come to Manchester United. It's going out and getting those younger players before they go and get that next step move, become superstars, and then you have to spend 80, 90, 100 million quid on him. Okay, I understand that. When that came out, that interview, which was from 2024, I agreed with it. I thought, I get this. We have wasted far too much money. And I think it was Wayne Rooney on the overlap when Maka was on it the other day mentioned it. You know, you go out and you buy Lukaku's and Pogba's and players like that. I'm not knocking some of those players. I enjoyed watching Paul Pogba, and Romelu Lukaku at one point looked like he was going to be that guy, especially on his United career. You could say the same for Angel Di Maria. You could say the same for several other players that we've bought, post Ferguson, but ultimately they've not succeeded. I don't think, other than definitely Bruno Fernandes and the current crop, who looking like players like Matthijs de Ligt, who's looking very good. Most of these players flattered to deceive. Most of them didn't do what we hoped they would do. So he's saying, look, we can't keep wasting money like this. Isn't going to work. Let's go out and buy the next players. And there has been an element of that. Diego Leone is one for the future. Seka Kone is one for the future. I understand that. Aiden Heaven, Cheeto. However, when we're reading reports like we're reading every day, that United now, according to the latest reports, are willing to go out and spend almost 180 million quid in the summer. Is that going against what Sir Jim Ratcliffe was saying? Are we just was that a bit of lip service? So, we're not going to go out and spend big money. Was that trying to convince clubs that Manchester United aren't going to have our pants pulled down anymore? I don't know. What do you think? Because to me, I think you have to be realistic about where you're at and what you want to achieve as a football club. Yes, you can get younger players in, and we've done that. But I think if we are going to get to the top, if you are going to get challenging for those titles, if you are going to get Manchester United in the Champions League, challenging for the Champions League. I don't always want to be in it. I want to be challenging to try and win it. If you are going to get us having a title race and in the title race and have a title challenge, you're going to have to go big. You're going to have to spend big money. And you're going to have to buy the players that have got a bit of a track record, a bit of pedigree to them. Kay Daniels says, McTominay and Alanga were decent squad players, but not the quality we want for the first team when we are trying to raise our floor. In my opinion, he's going back to the argument or the point about academy players. Michael Rogers says, Jay, I saw that United have been linked to Serhu Guirassy from Dortmund, but we know our record with Dortmund players. Is this the lad that had like that mad purple patch last season? Or was it the season before? He had a really good purple patch, didn't he? I remember talking about him quite a lot on the not transfer review. That was Steve does transfer review on Paper Talk. I remember when we was out in Dublin doing a live event, I was speaking about him, and he'd scored a load of goals, and it was like United had been linked with him, and then he obviously went to Dortmund. Let's just have a look at this lad. Sorry, you know how we roll on a Sunday. We sort of do things as we go, don't we? Yeah, it was it Stuttgart where he had a season where he just sort of exploded, basically. Not literally. 28 goals in 28 games. Yeah, it wasn't last season. It was the season before. Thought as much. He's gone to Dortmund. 21 goals last season. 38 in all competitions. Absolutely smashing it. He's 29 though, isn't he? I mean, are United going to go and buy a 29-year-old from Dortmund? No, I do not see that happening. I think if we were going to get him, we would have got him a couple of seasons ago when he was at Stuttgart, when he had that purple patch, when there was talk that maybe we could get him in the January transfer window. I don't see us going out and getting Guirassy. You're right as well, Michael, to point out the problems we've had with Dortmund players. I know it is a slight fallacy of logic in it. We've had players from Dortmund, they've been rubbish, so we don't get players from Dortmund again. People said that when we got Keno from Nottingham Forest. When we had Gary Birtles and Peter Davenport from Nottingham Forest, and they were duffers. Keno's arguably the greatest midfielder we've ever had. So you can break the mold with those sort of quirks, if you can call it that, the reputation or the history of buying players from a certain club. One thing I do think is accurate, though, is there is a massive step up from the Bundesliga to the Premier League. I do. And I think sometimes we've underestimated just how big that step up is. And I think that's why it's not necessarily just a Dortmund thing. That's why some players like Kagawa, like Mkhitaryan, like Jadon Sancho have struggled. I know they've all come from Dortmund, but more importantly, they've all been playing in the Bundesliga, been doing bits. And then when they've come to the Premier League to try and recreate that, it hasn't happened for them for a multitude of reasons. Now, sorry, I've got Red Barry here. Says, what's up, J lad? Did you know English language has 30% vocabulary of French words due to the Norman invasion? I think I saw something like that, the influence of William the Conqueror and like how that has influenced language as well. That's quite fascinating. I do like things like that. And thank you for, having a super chat to tell me. Joe James John says, we missed Haaland and Bellingham, got the bad ones. The thing with Bellingham, I think there was a difference. Bellingham, we tried to get him. We brought him to Carrington. He met Sir Alex Ferguson. I think he met Eric Cantona. We gave him a tour of the facilities. We sort of wooed him as much as we could. I think we spoke to his dad Mark. Spoke to Mark and tried to get him. Mark, like he's my mate. Mark Bellingham tried to convince him that his son's career would be better off at Manchester United. I think the Bellinghams who Mark Bellingham manages his son's career, both his sons, Job and Jude's career, very tightly. They were more interested in how much football he's going to get. Is his development going to be better off elsewhere? And I think the point was, as a 16-year-old, I think he was 16 at the time, maybe just turned 17. Was he going to start for Manchester United at that time in the Premier League week in, week out? Probably not. Would he start for Dortmund? Yes, and he did. And his career progressed fantastically. There's no denying that. And to the point where he gets a huge move to Real Madrid and goes on and wins the Champions League and becomes one of the greatest midfielders on the planet. Even though he's had his detractors, I don't get some of the Bellingham hatred. I think he's a great player. Dan United 94 says, etymology is genuinely fascinating AF. Glad you agree, Jay. I do. Danny UK makes a great point. Depends on how many players, 3-4 players, plus it's probably fair. If it's 1 or 2 players, then that money is spent on, then it's the same old big hit and hope. Hopefully it's more to increase squad depth. One person who's going to have a big say in all of this is Christopher Vivell. Now, don't forget, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe was talking about the next Mbappe, I think Vivell had come in as sort of an interim director of recruitment. This year, a year on from when Ratcliffe was making his statement, that became permanent. Now, Christopher Vivell is now the director of recruitment on a permanent basis. And it feels like he's one of the main men when it comes to transfers. A lot of reports were saying that he wanted Benjamin Sesko. He knew Benjamin Sesko very well. They'd worked together in the past, I believe. And he was like one of the biggest sort of advocates for signing Benjamin Sesko. I think it was from the time was at Leipzig. So I think, let me just make sure I'm getting this right because I don't want to get my timeline skewed. So yeah, I think they might have just missed each other at Leipzig, to be fair. I think sort of Vivell had moved by the time Sesko had got there, but there was a sort of an understanding that Vivell was a big advocate for bringing in. It might have been Salzburg, sorry. So were they at Salzburg at the same time? So let me just have a look. Vivell left Salzburg in 2020. Yeah, they're pass crossed at RB Salzburg. Vivell wanted Sesko, obviously a big money signing. He's had his critics, Sesko, but I like him. I get it. The question here now is, does that marry up? The idea of the next Mbappe, the idea of buying younger players, and the idea of what Vivell's doing, which is going out or advocating for, as well as Jason Wilcox, and you understand, probably as well as Ruben Amorim, and getting the next, or getting a player that can come in straight away and do a job. I'm not so sure. One thing I will say, you can try and have the best of both worlds. And a good example of that is Senna Lomans. He's young, he's one for the future, and he's come in and he's done very, very well indeed. That's the type of player that might be the best of both worlds, where you're going out, you're spending not huge amounts of money, decent amount of money, but a player that can come in and do a job right now, and he's one for the future. Another example of that, so maybe a slightly lesser degree, but I still think it fits that mold, is Patrick Dorgu. A young player, have a very, very bright future, can have a very, very bright future, but can come in almost immediately because he did start I think he started straight away and do a job. Maybe Manchester United needs to look at that a little bit more. I want to get into this a little bit more over the next few weeks. Jay, have you seen Sir Alex's comments on Lomans yesterday? I presume I saw something, I can't remember. Let me know, remind me that he was waxing lyrical about him. Jem says Lomans has been fantastic. I agree. I think he's been so difficult coming into Manchester United as a goalkeeper. It really is. Let me just see what Sir Alex said about it. I presume he's praised him. Yeah. He's called him an outstanding Manchester United signing, and he knows. He's called him outstanding, has talked of his future, having established himself as the new Manchester United number 1. How better have we been with Lomans in goal? That ain't a coincidence. That's not like, oh, he came in and just at the right time when we've got our act together. It's cause and effect, man. He's made a huge difference, and you can sense it. You can feel it. You can feel it amongst the fan base. You can feel it. You can see it with the players. There's just a confidence there with the guy behind us in the defense that he knows what he's doing. And he's doing those things that he's been asked to do from his manager. His manager's saying, look, don't worry about playing out back, go long. And his passing from long has been decent as well. He's created some chances from that. I like the lad. I like the way he carries himself as well. That's the type of player that probably fits both of those ideals. Someone who can come in straight away, but he's one for the future. They ain't easy to find. You don't get 20, 30 million pound players that can come in and do a job for Manchester United straight away easily. Takes a good scouting network, and that's what Manchester United have to have. Joe James John says, yes, less nervousness at the back, 100%. We are seeing less nervousness at the back, and that is what we need to see. Long may it continue. Kite Boy says, Eric Ten Hag to Wolves. Has it happened? No, I don't think that was a thing, was it? I thought that was all sort of... yeah, Rob Edwards went there, didn't he? I forgot that. I was like, what? Yeah, Rob Edwards went to... He left Middlesbrough, didn't he? I forgot that. I couldn't remember. I'm sure they just got a new manager. I'm going to leave it there. Listen, it's been a good chat. We'll have to wait and see just what happens with Manchester United now in the summer. Are we going to go out and spend 180 million quid on a pair of midfielders that are admittedly good midfielders, even though Baleba's having one in it? He's kind of playing his way out of this Manchester United move, unless it's all some sort of master plan to help us get him on the cheap. Elliot Anderson is going good guns, and we'll see whether he joins Manchester United, and we'll also see whether this promise of getting the next Mbappe was real, and we're still doing that, or was that just Jim Ratcliffe chatting a bit of nonsense? Yeah, big conspiracy theory, says Red Baron. Thanks a lot to everyone who got involved in the chat in the comments. Really enjoyed it today. I enjoyed our little Sunday chats, and look forward to next week, because we've got the proper football starting again, even though we play the week after, because we've got the Monday night game against Everton. But we're building up to that. We'll also be looking at what's going to go on in January. Are we going to have any more transfers? Don't forget as well, you can check out some of the videos we've already got on the channel. We had Carl Anker with his tactics board in on Friday. One of my favourite, probably my favourite guests. No disrespect to Laurie. I love Laurie. He's my mate. But Carl Anker, when he gets his tactics board out, I'm just in heaven. So go and check that one out. Go and check out the other videos. A big thank you again to everyone who donated to my charity push. And don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. I'm J Motty. This has been a Paper Talk from a pretty sunny Salford. Thanks for watching.